What's up, guys? Welcome back to Spoiling Movies. My name is Chris, and I'm going to tell you all about a movie I just watched, and there's going to be spoilers. I'm going to tell you most of the main things that happen, and I'm going to tell you my opinion on it at the end. We're getting back into the Marvel stuff. This week, it's going to be Captain America, the First Avenger. The film starts off in an icy tundra. There's a groups of like government people checking out this weird site where there is a ship, some big metal piece of a ship sticking out of the ice. So they start lasering through to get down into it. A couple of them go down there. They wipe off some ice near the cockpit of the ship thing. You see Captain America's shield in the ice, and so they're like, "You better phone it in. We gotta tell somebody about this shit." So then we flash back, and it's Norway in like 1942 or something. There's this like cathedral with this old man priest guy in it. You hear noises and shit outside. A big old tank thing busts through the brick wall. Out steps this guy. We find out his name is Schmidt. He's working with Hitler, or he was working for Hitler, but now he's sort of on his own in his own group called Hydra. So Schmidt is talking about this artifact that he's looking for, and it belonged to the gods. It was the jewel of Odin's treasure room or whatever. And Schmidt busts open this tomb thing, and there's like a skeleton thing holding this little cube, and he pulls the cube up, and he says something about it, and he smashes it on the ground, and he's like, "That's a fake." So he looks around, and he finds this like carving on the wall. So he presses this little snake face thing, pulls out this thing, opens it up, and it's like, whoa, it's like shining blue light in his face. And so then he kills the priest guy, takes the shit with him. Then we see little Steve Rogers in America, in Bronx or Brooklyn or wherever the hell he's from, and he's trying to enlist in the army, and they won't let him because he's a little scrawny looking weirdo guy. But they won't let him into the army because he's got asthma and like a whole giant list of health issues and stuff, plus he's a little tiny guy, and so they're like, "Nah, you can't be in the army." So Steve is in a theater watching like one of those war propaganda movie type things, and there's a guy in the crowd like, "Hurry up, get to the stuff," or whatever. Steve's like, "Shh, like, be quiet, be respectful," whatever. And then the guy keeps heckling and keeps saying loud things, and Steve's like, "Hey, knock it off, we're trying to enjoy this stuff." And he's like, "What'd you say to me?" Like, steps up, and they go back in the alley. The dude just beats the shit out of him, and then we get Steve Rogers' classic, like, "I could do this all day," while he's getting his ass beat. And then his friend Bucky shows up, punches the bully, and he kicks him in the ass and gets him out of there. Then we get to see the old Stark Expo. Howard Stark, Tony's father, is running it, and he does a demonstration where there's this like floating car. He turns on this machine thing, and a car starts floating, and everybody's like, "Wow, that's amazing!" And then it kind of like falls because it's not quite ready technology yet, but he's still like way ahead of his time, But at the Stark Expo, there's also an enlistment place, and Steve's like, "I gotta try. I want to serve my country, and so I gotta keep trying." And he keeps like making up fake names to get in and keep trying, even though they keep shutting him down. But in this one, he gets noticed by this like German scientist guy. "I know you've been enlisting under fake names and stuff, but why do you want to do this so much?" And he's like, "I hate bullies, and I want to beat up those bully Nazis." And he's like, "Oh, you've got heart, and that's interesting, and I'm gonna approve you to like come and do this like military science experiment type thing." So he's able to get him in. Schmidt has this scientist guy that's been making machines for him, and they don't have enough power to power his machines or whatever. Puts the Tesseract into the machine, and it makes all the machines work. They all start glowing. There's like energy all around, and he's like, "This could power all of my inventions." So Steve gets to this like boot camp place. Agent Peggy Carter and Tommy Lee Jones's character are in charge of like training the men. Steve's getting bullied because everybody's bigger than him, and he's a little scrawny guy. So they're doing this run thing, and they stop at like a flag, and they're like, "If anybody can get the flag down from the pole, you get to ride the rest of the way instead of running. You get to ride in the car with Peggy." And so everybody scrambles, and they're trying to climb the thing, and none of them can get up there. So they all start running again. And Steve walks over, notices there's a little pin in the bottom of the thing, and he pulls the pin out, and the whole thing falls over. He grabs the flag, and he gives it to the guy, and so he's able to ride around with the lovely Agent Carter. Tommy Lee Jones is like, he's scrawny. "I don't want him here. Why'd you bring him in here?" And he's like, "We'll see what's really going on." He pulls out this grenade, tosses it on the ground, and everybody is like, "Great!" Everybody scatters, but little Steve runs over there. He dives on it, and he's like, "Get away! Stay back!" Turns out it's a dummy grenade. Doesn't explode, Everybody gets to see that he's good. He's got heart. The good German scientist guy that brought Steve in starts giving him exposition about this guy Schmidt. There's this serum that he's going to be injecting Steve with. It'll turn you into a super self. Whatever you are, it'll make you better. But if you're a bad guy, it'll make you worse. And in Schmidt's case, he tried to give it, he forced him to give it to him, and Schmidt, he just became more crazy and evil, but also, more powerful and everything. When Peggy and Steve are in the car together, driving to the location where they're going to do the experiment, they get to do a little bit of flirting, and it's like, I don't really dance, because I've never had the right partner. And she's like, well, maybe someday you'll have the right partner or whatever. They put Steve in this weird chamber. They do the stuff, and he's like, he's like, keep going, I can handle it. Doors of the chamber thing open, and full-size fucking god-looking fucking oiled-up Chris Evans is there, fully beefed. Like, regular height, not the weird floating kid head thing. Fucking jacked. He's fucking torqued. Hydra agents had infiltrated their little laboratory experiment thing. He pulls out a gun, he shoots the nice Dr. Man. Dr. Man dies. The guy gets out of there, starts running, and Steve Rogers is chasing him through the street. He's like jumping on cars. He's just leaping, like hurtling over giant fences and stuff. Steve is able to catch up with the guy in a submarine. He's got in this weird little submarine thing, and he's able to catch up to it and rip the door off and pull him out of there. He pulls out one of his teeth, and he crunches it, and it's like cyanide pill, and he dies, so he can't get any information out of him. Schmidt and evil scientist Zola have some Nazi guys, like, that are Hitler's men, come into their Hydra station, and they're all disbelieving. They're like, you've been going against Hitler's wishes and doing your own crazy stuff, and like, you better have something to show us or you're done. I got the power of the fucking gods, and it's in the machines. And he turns the machines on these unbelieving sons of bitches, and he just disintegrates them into just blue fucking ash. Tommy Lee Jones says that just because Steve's all beefed up doesn't mean he wants him like in his group and his soldiers. You could help us in the war by being our figurehead for selling bonds that will help, buy the soldiers bullets and all kinds of shit. So they put him in the old classic Captain America outfit with the little wings on the head and the old school shield. And they got him out there singing and dancing with a bunch of girls. He ends up doing a show for the actual troops that are out there fighting, and the troops don't like him. They're throwing shit. They're like, yeah, get out of here, you fool. Bring back the girls on stage. Steve gets word that his buddy Bucky is trapped behind enemy lines. Peggy is able to convince Howard Stark to fly them into enemy territory, jumps out in parachutes down, and is able to kind of like sneak around into the base, which is kind of ridiculous because he has a giant red, white, and blue shield on his back, which is very, very obvious. He's able to go and save a bunch of commandos. I think they're called the Howling Commandos, so I might be wrong. And eventually he finds Bucky. Schmidt and Zola start a self-destruction, so he just starts blowing everything up. And there's an interesting scene where there's a bridge that is retracting, and on one side you got Bucky and Steve, and on the other side you got Schmidt and Zola, and Schmidt rips off his face, and underneath it's the Red Skull. The serum that he used ended up, messing him all up and turning his face into a Red Skull. Schmidt is able to escape in this really interesting looking old school. It looks like a spaceship, but it's got like a helicopter blade spinning around in the middle of it, and I don't know, it looks pretty cool to me. Steve is able to make an impossible Captain America leap across the thing through the fire and flames, and then he brings all the soldiers back. He was able to save whole big old buttload of soldiers, brings them back to the camp, and everybody's praising him as a hero. So now the military guys trust Steve. He's working, he's telling them information that he found when he was in there. One of the girls that's working in the facility, she's like, oh, is that you? Are you Captain America? She's like, you just saved the lives of so many people, and I think you're dreamy, and I want to give you a big old smoochie. So she gives him a big old fucking smoochie. Peggy comes around the corner, and she sees it, and she kind of like passive-aggressively says some shit to him. And then they find the Howard Stark shields that he's been inventing, and he finds this one. It looks basically like this, just without any color, just all the silver in the middle. It says it's made of vibranium, which is the strongest, lightest metal on Earth. And he's like, does it work? And Peggy pulls out a gun and just starts firing it into the shield at him, because she's pissed that he kissed the girl. But I was thinking, like, hopefully those bullets don't ricochet. Maybe she knows that, maybe she doesn't. But, like, that's pretty dangerous. I feel like she would lose her job discharging a firearm in, like, an office, like, laboratory place or something. It just seemed odd to me. Maybe she knew. Maybe the bullets just stop and fall. Maybe, I don't know. I thought maybe ricochet or something. Seems reckless and dangerous is what I'm saying, Peggy. There's a cool, weird montage of Steve riding on motorcycles, using his shield, throwing his shield. He's always able to make the shield come back to him, which has always been very odd to me. I don't know how he plans that out. Like, did it make him a master of, like, physics and geometry or something? Taking down the Hydra agents and blowing up their tanks and all kinds of cool shit. Steve and the commando guys are able to zipline down onto this train where Hydra's got some, other shit. And it's in like a big snowy area. So for some reason I couldn't help think of Snowpiercer, because he was also in that, where there's a train and it's cold outside. One of the bad guys used their gun to blow a hole in the wall, and Bucky kind of flies out, but he's hanging on the edge, and Captain America Steve's crawling out there. He's trying to grab him, but Bucky just falls, and he's like, "No!" So then there's a moment where Red Skull Schmidt is cheersing to his men. It's a big weird air hangar facility. He's about to get on this plane and go bomb or use the technology to blow up like New York or something. And some scenes look really good, and some scenes look a little bit more cheap and kind of fakeish, like Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow. And he's crazy good with that damn shield, man. He's like just flinging it around. He's using it to fucking bang people's fucking heads. It's really pretty cool. But he ends up getting captured by the Hydra dudes. So they take him into like the lab area, and then Red Skull and Zola are talking shit and being like, and then the commandos bust through the window and they save him. And some of the commandos have taken some of the Tesseract weapons. So, like, some of them are shooting people on the way out, and some of them are going pew, pew, using the fucking disintegration laser. Pretty cool. A lot of people die. Good guys and bad guys are killing a lot of people in this one. Red Skull gets on his giant crazy plane and he starts heading down the runway. Peggy and Tommy Lee Jones' character grabs Steve and they get him in this car, and the car is able to catch up with the plane, and it like right at the edge of a cliff right before takeoff. Steve's able to get up in like the landing gear. He gets up in the landing gear. So Steve is able to like grab some of the Hydra dudes and just like throw them out of the plane. One of the Hydra dudes gets in a like weird kamikaze plane, and he starts flying out. And Steve, like, jumps out, gets on the plane, and fucking rips the guy out of there, tosses him out. And that part's actually kind of fucked up, because, like, when he tosses that dude out, he gets caught up in the blades, and it's just like, ah! Zzz. But he's able to, like, fly it back up into the Red Skull ship. So then we get a one-on-one, hand-to-hand Captain America Red Skull fight. They both have comparable abilities. For some reason, Red Skull grabs the Tesseract with his bare hand or whatever, and it starts going like opens up the sky in a giant beam, and it just fucking like he's just not there anymore. Like, it took him somewhere or it killed him. We don't know. I mean, we know now, but we didn't know then in this movie. But he actually drops the Tesseract, and it burns a hole through the ship, and it falls down somewhere. Steve is trying to land the ship, but there's nowhere to land, so he's like, I've just got to put it down wherever I can, and it's just like he's just over ice and shit. He's talking to Peggy on the radio, and it's a real emotional scene, and it's good. It's actually good. It kind of got me a little bit, where she's like, well, we'll have to dance sometime whenever we get, to have that dance that we wanted to have, and we'll get it when you land or whatever. And he's like, yeah, and whatever. And like they know he's not gonna make it. Ship goes down into the ice. Howard Stark has like a little like submarine thing that goes and finds the Tesseract. Steve wakes up and he's in bed, and it's New York City, and there's a baseball game on TV. and some woman walks in and is like, "Is everything okay?" Whatever, and he's like, What is this? Where am I?" And they're like, "Oh, you're in New York, 1943 or some shit." And he's like, "This baseball game, I was at this baseball game. This already happened. Like, this is all fake. What's going on here?" And he's like, "Bullshit." So he just like busts through a wall, and he's in a facility, and it's all fake. Runs out into Times Square. And he sees all the the new shit, because he's in the present day. And Nick Fury shows up, and he's like, "You've been sleeping a while, man. We brought you back because we wanted you to fucking help us." And that's the movie. I think it's pretty darn good. I like it a lot. I think the CG with the head, when he's the little skinny body with the Chris Evans face head, is really, really off-putting. But that's only happens at the beginning. It turns into fucking good old Beefcake Evans, and when we love him again. I think they did a really cool thing. I don't think it's like one of the best, out of all of these MCU movies, but I do really enjoy it. I have a special place for this movie. Everything has a certain aesthetic. It looks kind of old school, looks kind of World War II-ish, The action stuff is pretty great, good choreography. Sometimes the props and backgrounds look very good, and sometimes they look a little more fake. I liked Peggy Carter. I really like Tommy Lee Jones in this also. I like Red Skull. I liked Zola, the Zola character. I like the other scientist, the good scientist guy also. The music was pretty appropriate for the time period and the feeling that they were going for. Chris Evans is great as Captain America. I think he was a good choice for this role, and I think he did a great job. I thought it was an interesting choice to bring in the Tesseract in this one. I think they merged it into the universe pretty interestingly, because we find out more about that later. So anyway, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I do recommend it. I don't think it's everybody else's favorite. I wouldn't say it's my favorite either, but I do like it a lot. So, yeah. Peace out, fellow human beings.
You just don't know when to give up, do you?
Hang on this all day.
The film starts off in an icy... Oh, fuck, it's hot in here already. They wipe off some... there's some people, and they find then we cut to Littles, then they cut to and he's like so here we go. So Soldier Man, Red Skull gets on... Red Skull... I just said Red Skull like 3 times in a row. What the fuck do you call it? Because it's like on autopilot or whatever. That doesn't make any sense. Where the people, at the beginning,